How often are you open about your mental health? Now, actually, this is a good point, because I watched the Lewis Capaldi documentary last night, which is new. It's streaming on Netflix as of yesterday. And he's such an amazing guy, but God, he suffers with terrible anxiety and has done for many years. And it just shows how his mental health was affected by his rise to fame and the pressure on him to deliver songs and albums and perform and everything else. It's an incredible view of what it's like to have success and then become famous. The impact this had on him is quite striking. His parents are lovely. It's a fascinating documentary. If we get the chance to have a watch, then I recommend it. But if you are suffering with mental health problems, do you speak out? Do you seek help? It can be one of the most difficult things to do, to open up and admit that we're struggling. So let me introduce you then to Charlotte Fisher and Marcus Matthews. Now, if you're a big fan of SAS Who Dares Wins, you may have seen Charlotte Fisher. She dropped out of Series 8 in episode 2, actually, because she suffered a horrible panic attack. She was then approached by Marcus, who's a hypnotherapist, for help. He saw one of her TikToks. And now, because of the work that she's done with him, she would like to go back on the series. So I caught up with them this week and started by asking Charlotte, why? Why did you apply for the show?
Generally being a little bit unhinged. I think everybody who applies has to have a bit of a screw loose, don't they? I think it was kind of an ultimate physical challenge for me. I used to be a diver and a gymnast, so pain doesn't really scare me. I've run ultra marathons, and it was like, right, what can I do to really hurt myself next? And I was like, oh, SAS Who Dares Wins looks like really good fun.
You had watched the programme?
Oh, I had watched the programme. Yeah.
Still went ahead. So tell me when this was and what actually happened. What was your experience then?
So I applied for the show probably early March, April 2022. The producers got in touch and went, yeah, we like you. We'd like you to come down to a casting day, do all the fitness testing. So did all the fitness testing, did like a filmed interview kind of thing so they can see what you're like on camera, passed all the fitness tests, and then you kind of just keep getting progressed to the next stage. And I was like, okay, we're getting a bit closer. And it's like, all right, we're on to the next one. And then got a phone call that was like, okay, so we'll pick you up and take you to the airport at this time. I was like, all right, I'm going then, that's fine, here's your boots. And yeah, you kind of just go through all the stages, medicals, psychological evaluations. There's so much stuff to make sure that like you're okay, and that you'll be able to cope with the environment and cope with the physical side of it. And ended up in Vietnam. Didn't find out where we were going until we got to the airport and met one of the producers who was traveling with us, and she went, you're going to Vietnam, which is really exciting because I love Vietnam.
Okay, so you had all those tests, but still that wasn't enough, was it?
Yeah, so I think the psychological evaluations were very rigorous, and they knew all about, I suppose, my history with mental health, and I wasn't the only one there with like mental health stuff that had happened previously. And I'd got to the point in life where I was really managing really quite well. I'd kind of got myself through the initial difficulties of all the mental health related things that happen. I wasn't having panic attacks anymore. I managed to have a decent length of time without having a panic attack. But there's a massive difference between being able to go to work, manage in real life, do the grocery shopping and walk the dog, and suddenly find yourself with 19 strangers in the jungle in Vietnam with 4 very, very large men screaming at you.
Not quite the same.
Big disparity. It's not quite the same thing. So that obviously pushed some buttons, and that dissolved into quite a big panic attack that ultimately led to me handing my number in and going, I think I should probably bow out now, but with a lot more tears.
When was this, and how long were you in before you left?
So I left on day 2. I had a bit of a panic on day 1, pulled myself back from it, and then at the end of day 1 they pulled me in. I spoke to Billy and Chris, and they were really kind, really compassionate. So I had a mirror room with them, and which didn't get shown on the program. Had a mirror room with them, and they were absolutely lovely and went, like, you're all right, you're fine. We're not gonna do anything that's gonna hurt you. Keep pushing through it, leave all the past stuff behind you, and keep moving forwards. So went into day 2 going, right, I'm gonna go absolutely kill this. And then day 2 kind of hit and the same thing sort of happened. And I realized at that point that it wasn't really going to get any better. And while I was fine from a physical perspective, I knew that from a psychological perspective, I wasn't quite so where I thought I was in terms of recovery.
And were they supportive after you came out? Did they give you the support you needed?
Yeah, they're brilliant. So I spoke to, you have a little debrief with the DS after you've handed your number in. So I spoke to Foxy, who was lovely. He probably didn't get much coherent out of me, but I really appreciated the little pep talk that he gave me afterwards. And then you come home and the producers check in on you, the psychologists check in on you. You have regular catch-ups, regular sessions with the psychologists who are able to kind of keep you on track. But obviously their job is to make sure that you're okay in managing as opposed to curing your PTSD from previous traumas. So they do their job wonderfully well. But I think for me, I just needed that extra little bit on top, which was where Marcus came in.
How did you and Marcus meet then? How did this all happen? Who found who?
Marcus found me on TikTok. So I put just a funny TikTok up about training for SAS Who Dares Wins with panic attacks because I did some specific training, believe it or not. I did some specific panic attack training because I was really worried about being hooded and having goggles on, which if you've watched the show,
yes,
you'll know that me with my slight phobia of being suffocated, that probably wasn't going to be something that was easy. So I sat for probably a good few hours with a pillowcase on and my swimming goggles on, just to practice it. And it worked. That was the bit of the show that I was like, oh, this is fine. I can deal with this. So it goes to show what a bit of practice does for you. I should have gone and found just 4 big, really massive random male strangers and been like, just scream at me for a bit. It's okay. We're going to practice this. So I put just a funny TikTok up of like me training for SAS Who Dares Wins with a pillowcase on my head versus everyone else doing press-ups. And Marcus saw that, put 2 and 2 together, connected all the dots, went and watched episode 1, which is where I had a panic attack and left, and just sent me an email and went, hi, I'm Marcus, let me fix you, essentially. And I went, if you can try.
You can try. Well, you can find out what happens, actually. And didn't all go to plan. Charlotte Fisher and Marcus Matthews. Marcus is a hypnotherapist. Not the one, where they wave the clock in front of your face. No. It's a fascinating story, and you can hear more from Charlotte and Marcus across the next hour, and a little bit more after Lizzo. Lizzo on BBC Radio Shropshire. Good afternoon, and that's special. Part 2 now of my conversation with Charlotte Fisher and Marcus Matthews. Charlotte dropped out of Series 8 of SAS Who Dares Wins. It started at the beginning of this year. She suffered a horrible panic attack and was approached by Marcus, who is a hypnotherapist, for help. So we heard Charlotte's story in the first part of our conversation, but I wanted to know Marcus's story, how he got into all of this and why he wanted to help Charlotte.
I'm actually ex-military. I'm actually ex-military and ex-police. And I found myself in that place where I was feeling suicidal as a serving police officer in Shrewsbury. And I didn't realise I was on that downward kind of path until that happened. Unfortunately, it's that whole world cope and manage.
Get on with it.
Get on with it. We wouldn't cope and manage with a broken leg, but we seem to think that that's a fix. And Charlotte said that a few times. And my son is now in the military as well. He's in the Royal Signals. So when I saw Charlotte, massive fan of the show anyway, and when I saw Charlotte's TikTok, I just went, oh, this is so annoying. Another, what you don't know is she's amazing. She's a brilliantly strong, powerful woman who wants to do big things in the world. And it's so annoying that people, she couldn't stay on the show. I want to start a campaign to get her on the next series, I'll be honest. But my point is that somebody like that who puts all that effort in is a real hero and then has to bow out because of a panic attack.
Yeah.
That's rubbish. Why should we have to cope with that?
Seems such a small incidental thing, but massive
but a
to
massive
you,
impact.
Isn't it?
Yeah. And so I was in that same position in regards to my career. So I remember going to my GP, and I won't swear because I did at the time, but I basically said, why do I feel the way that I do? And we focus a lot around, that incident, but we won't go into Charlotte's case, but as Charlotte will attest, the root cause to why she was feeling the way she was, the root cause to why she was having the panic attack was nothing to do with that. And actually, the body is always, and the mind is always trying to help us. The problem is it doesn't speak language. This is why talking therapy is amazing. CBT, counselling is really good for helping people stabilise. But you can't communicate with a feeling. Well, you can. You just need to know how.
Don't you think, though, there's so many different things out there that not everybody, one thing might not work for everybody. So for Charlotte in this case, who she'd never obviously considered hypnotherapy before and was quite surprised by the results, it might work for her, but it might not work for somebody else.
I would agree. You have to want to do it. However, it might be worth asking Charlotte, what happened on our first session?
Yeah, what did happen on the first session, Charlotte?
I went, this is absolute rubbish, but with a bit more colourful language. And I don't like this at all, and slammed my laptop. And
this was on a Zoom, was it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes. So we did this. Yeah, we did it via Zoom. So I basically went, this is terrible, not doing it, bang. And Marcus went, oh, well, that was a new one.
But what was good, let me put a spin on that, because a lot of people think with hypnotherapy that you're not in control. Well, actually, Charlotte proved that she was absolutely in control, and that at that point, she didn't want to do it, which I think is amazing, because it's about, my strapline is about empowering you to change your life. So in that moment, Charlotte was empowered to go, I don't want to go there at the moment. Now, the actual thing was more around maybe some of the language. So I just switched that up. We did the session again.
I was going to say, what changed?
I just allowed Charlotte to be in that space, and I just held space for her. And I said, hey, if you don't want to do it, that's fine. And eventually Charlotte did come back, and we did have a chat after we'd done the session. And it was like, why did I do that? Charlotte will say to you, I should have just cracked on. But it's not familiar, and the mind loves the familiar. And that's why things like hypnotherapy is not generally known that as being able to do this. Paul McKenna's doing a lot of stuff around this at the moment. I was with Paul just before Christmas, and it is so powerful, hypnotherapy, but you've got to have the right person who knows what they're doing.
Definitely.
And that's the important thing.
How many sessions? How has it helped you, Charlotte?
We did one session together, but it wasn't like a counting down 60 minutes. Oh, time's up, off you go, bye. See you next week. It was probably about 3.5 hours that we sat together. So we had one session, and then what Marcus does is he creates a recording, which the whole idea is that you change the thoughts. It's not necessarily about the feelings, because thoughts create feelings and then feelings create behaviors. So in my case, these thoughts were creating these feelings of like panic and overwhelm. And then the behaviour or the outcome was a panic attack, which obviously isn't particularly helpful. So what we were doing is changing the thoughts, and basically changing the thoughts from, oh my gosh, everything is awful, everything's going wrong, I can't do this, to, no, I can manage this. I just need to do 10 burpees in the mud. Like, it's fine. It's not really a big deal. I can do 10 burpees, which then creates more of a feeling of calm, which then creates the behaviour of like, cool, 10 burpees in the mud, off we go. And I can't remember what the question was.
Nor can I.
What was the session?
And we do remember the question. We talk more about it. You can hear the final part of our conversation. Lovely guys they are. Now, the final part of my conversation with former SAS Who Dares Wins contestant Charlotte Fisher and hypnotherapist Marcus Matthews. I've been reading about the contestants for Series 8 and what they went through. There's not a chance in hell I'd make it through the first day. And also nowhere near fit enough. Now, if you've missed any of this conversation, of course, you can listen back on BBC Sounds. We've been talking about Charlotte leaving the show after the first day and how she was approached by Marcus, who is from Shropshire, to help her after seeing one of her TikToks. So that's the big question then. How did Marcus help Charlotte?
This might be worth explaining. So I do something slightly different than just standard hypnotherapy. So the reason why Charlotte was able to do it in one session rather than having multiple sessions is that we find the root cause to the feeling. So the feeling drives the behavior. So I feel anxious. I feel like I'm having a panic attack. Now, we create a story that we link to that panic attack, to that anxiety. So you look to your past for all the disasters, and then you link and go, look, I'm broken because of this. When we find the root cause of when that feeling was first created, normally between the age of 0 and 8, what we can do is then we come from a place of knowing. So I have a phrase, you know what you know, You know what you feel, but you don't know what you don't know. So how can you feel how you've never felt? So what we do is we change the association and the feeling from a place of knowing. So now I'm empowered to make the choice to change because, oh, I realize I'm not 8 anymore. And when my teacher shouted at me and I felt all anxious about it, well, I wouldn't allow that to happen now.
Surely, though, in certain situations, Charlotte was able to vocalise.
Yes, it's giving a voice to the feeling,
session.
yeah.
But sometimes you're not always able to vocalise what's going on in one session, presumably? You're going to disagree with me on that?
I'm going to disagree with you. The kind of rule is normally 1 to 3 sessions. But in nearly 5 years of doing this, I've never, ever had to do more than 1 session for the actual root cause. What I do is I do follow-up coaching just to make sure that they can bring that new awareness into their environment. But yeah, 1 session. I know it sounds impossible, right?
It does sound hard to believe, but Charlotte's sitting grinning her face off at me. So what impact now has this had, and are you going to reapply? Can you reapply?
I don't know if I can reapply, but I'm going to do it anyway and find out. And so I think the impact that it's had on me is, so we have the transformation recording that comes out of the session, which is essentially, imagine a guided meditation with Marcus talking you through all the things, and you listen to that for 21 days straight, and 21 days in a row. And then the whole idea is it reprograms your thoughts and your associations. So hypnotherapy created an environment where I was relaxed enough to be able to go and explore those feelings. And you essentially just let the situations pop up, let your brain go where it needs to go. So I figured out some stuff about why these panic attacks were coming up. And honestly, it's made me procrastinate a lot less, because that was definitely something that I was doing, was putting off things that were difficult in case they brought up difficult feelings. But now that I know I can kind of just deal with all those difficult feelings as they come up, I don't need to put things off anymore. So my mum sadly passed away about 6 weeks after we got back from Vietnam. She died of breast cancer. And I noticed that I'd been developing some slightly obsessive, probably compulsive behaviours after she passed away. And I've been able to just let those go as well. Just everything. Being able to work through situations as they come up, being able to be a voice of reason in arguments, being able to disagree constructively with people and not turn it into a meltdown, being able to go into situations where I don't feel comfortable and know that I'll be all right.
Brilliant. I mean, it's transformed you in a way then, this, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's brought me back to the person that I feel like I was earlier on in life. I'm very much one of those people, or used to be, or I'm one of those people, but I changed probably from my early 20s, where I just didn't really care what anybody else thought that much, was happy to just go and find out and explore and do things, to this person who actually became really anxious and really worried about, what if things go wrong? Oh my gosh, this could be terrible. And now I've kind of gone back to who Charlotte was before all that stuff happened, and before the PTSD and anxiety, to being able to just go and just be able to manage and be able to do what I want to do without anxiety getting in the way.
What is next for you then, Charlotte?
Do you know what? A lot of things. So this weekend we're actually opening a coffee shop, a career change. Everything has kind of changed off the back of Who Dares Wins and working with Marcus. So I kind of realised that I wasn't 100% happy in my career. So I'm going back to my baking roots and we're opening a little coffee shop. I've got some more ultra marathons on the horizon, some hopefully exciting stuff with regard to, I suppose, the rest of my life. I feel like I can just get on with the rest of my life. And then hopefully SAS Who Dares Wins again, if they let me back in.
Let's hope they do. Marcus, you just hearing, I mean, I can see her, you can't, but hearing and seeing the happiness in Charlotte must be very satisfying for you.
It is, because I remember when I was in that dark place and I kind of fixed myself. I said I never want anybody else to go through this. And it's one of the reasons, actually, at the end of the month at Hadley Park Hotel, we're actually doing a charity event for West Mercia Search and Rescue, where I'm going to talk about this, about putting people first, because that's what we've done with Charlotte. You know, it's about Charlotte now. It's not just the impact on her own mental health, but it's the ripple effect of better relationships with family, better relationships with colleagues, and just, being in flow with life and being able to go out there and do. and and it is possible. This is the thing, but it's just getting it out there. And I want Shropshire to be the lead in doing that. I want to put Shropshire on the map as this place where we can make real change in mental health. And that's why we're doing that event in Telford at the end of the month.
Wonderful stuff. That is hypnotherapist Marcus Matthews. You can find him on social media, and he's on Instagram as well. And that was SAS Who Dares Wins contestant Charlotte Fisher, who appeared in Series 8 of the latest series. And I've just been having a read of some of the contestants who've taken part and how much training they did before they joined fit. Yes, let's just say very, 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 very fit. That's what they all were.